Welcome to the Digital Transformationists podcast. On today's episode, we're joined by Aileen Horgan, VP of Marketing at Gremlin. We'll hear about her experience navigating the incredible trajectory of digital transformation at Atlassian and Gremlin, the importance of resilience in a time of disruption, the value that chaos engineering brings to our distributed world, her marketing philosophy, and her experience with digital transformation and music consumption, from the days of making mixtapes to today.
Aileen, welcome to the podcast. It's so good to see you.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Right on. And I'd like to introduce you to the famous G Love, Garrett Dutton.
Hey, Aileen. Good to meet you.
Hey, what's up? Great to meet you. Big fan.
Oh, thank you very much.
So, funny story. Aileen and I have seen each other as we've been doing business at Atlassian for ages now. But the only time we get to see each other is like in Barcelona, some places in Europe, places in like California, San Francisco. We never see each other in Austin, even though we've both lived in Austin for a very long time. But it's just so good to see you, even if it's just over Zoom. Aileen, you've had a phenomenal career at Atlassian. As most of our listeners know of Atlassian, it's a great company, great culture, innovative, really building technologies and products, the de facto products for how companies build software and solve some of their biggest challenges. Can you share with us just your thoughts and what you've learned of your career at Atlassian and perhaps how it's a differentiator in the space that it's in?
Yeah, you bet. Incredible ride at Atlassian. I have nothing but, the utmost respect for the teams there, the leadership teams, the individuals, really talented staff. What they've built and managed and added to their product portfolio, like you said, are some of the leading products in market for what they're doing. I think, one of the more important things that Atlassian stands for is team and culture, right? So there's a strong emphasis on using technology to connect teams, to build a culture of collaboration, and that extends to some degrees into personal lives. So some of our products that Atlassian's known for were about personal use, and then for in other instances, some of those products are really just about team collaboration and focusing on building better processes to bring teams together. One thing I think they do really well is around distributed teamwork. So prior to COVID, Atlassian was well known for leading in the distributed teamwork space, right? So when I was at Atlassian, my last role, I had teams in Sydney. I had teams in Bangalore, India, in San Francisco, in the South Bay, and in Austin. So you can imagine we were globally dispersed. We learned a lot about what it took to build, strong remote or distributed teamwork. And a lot of that came down to practice. It came down to openness and transparency and a culture of trust.
What's the work culture like? And then, how does that help the productivity and engagement of everybody that's working with you there, that work with you there?
Yeah, Atlassian for years it probably still is one of the best companies to work for in the world. And that is exemplified, and I think it really comes down to their core values. They have 5 core values, and they're not just plastered on the walls. They actually are critical to the company's DNA. And one of those is around openness and transparency. And we used Confluence, one of Atlassian's products, yes, but that was such an integral part to how teams could collaborate with one another and understand the progress of work being done. The founders are very focused on, sharing information and making sure that everyone has access to, as much information as they were able to share. And they were active in Slack and on Confluence, and they would leave comments on blog posts that you would share. And so the culture, to me, it really came down to, an emphasis on trust, autonomy, respect, and collaboration.
That's so cool. So as a product manager at Atlassian, you spent a lot of your time in the DevOps space, and DevOps is this big thing. We know that it's working to bring that that conflict between running a system and being responsible for delivering new value. right? IT operations type folks want to have reliability and consistency, and don't want a lot of change as an older way of thinking. And software developers, it's all about delivering value fast and often. And DevOps is hoping to kind of bridge that gap and bring a culture that enables that ability to deliver value and, of course, reliability. Your time at Atlassian wasn't around chaos engineering. It's not necessarily an Atlassian thing per se. But now that you've moved on to Gremlin, you're picking up, I'm sure, a lot of new understandings of what chaos engineering exactly is. Tell us more about your transition to Gremlin. Perhaps why Gremlin, and where you see kind of DevOps going forward, or perhaps being more widely adopted.
Yeah, sure. So I'll actually start with the middle question there, which is, why make that transition? So like I shared, I have had incredible experiences at Atlassian, and I actually wasn't looking to make a change. But what is so compelling to me about what Gremlin stands for is the focus on reliability. And it's about helping teams and companies build a culture of reliability, making reliability an important part of their business objectives. And the reason why I think that's, so relevant is that it's never been more important than it is today, right? If you think about how technology is connecting us through COVID, right? Whether that's for schools, right? Like a good example is HISD is the 7th largest school district in the country. And on their first day of virtual learning, they had a 5-hour outage. And so that means that none of those students were able to get online, to start school. It had a ripple effect on teachers and on parents who were at home trying to help, mitigate some of those technical issues.
Well, and trying to get their own jobs done because they're
exactly.
at work, right? Can you imagine?
That's right. Everything kind of goes and gets put on pause. And then I think from a personal perspective, right, like technology is connecting us. Like this is a great example where we're recording this over Zoom. How do you stay connected to your family members who are states away that you can't visit and spend time with? And how do you, celebrate joys, celebrate losses together when you can't come together in person? You use technology. There are things that are irreplaceable face to face, but I think, technology is doing a great job of trying to mitigate that, and making sure that those systems are available, responsive, and reliable is what Gremlin is all about. And so, we believe that the best way to start building a culture of reliability is through the practice of chaos engineering.
Very cool.
Aileen, we're living through this time of incredible disruption right now, all across the board, in all walks of life, and in all avenues of social and business. So how does chaos engineering kind of apply to everything from politics to music to environmental disasters we might face, and just everything in the world right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good question. At its core, it's about just making things, whether that's a product or a system or an application, you can expand that into anything, is how do you make systems more resilient? And you could say, we want to, run a series of experiments to understand how we make our economy more resilient and successful. But you could also say, how do we do that for things like in the music industry, make sure artists are, successful in providing that incredible audience experience? Or you could say, maybe there's a way in which we can look into some of the civil unrest, and how are there things that we could have better prepared for to make sure that we didn't end with, such a chaotic year, right? How exactly we go about doing that, I'm probably not the best to answer. But I do believe that, having a culture around getting comfortable with intentionally and thoughtfully breaking systems, whether that system is an application or, an institution, hopefully it yields to more resilient systems, performance, and people.
When I'm hearing all this stuff, it's like hearing a different language. Because I'm not a tech guy. Like, I don't even own a laptop. I'm using my wife's laptop, So, but, we were talking, and we were trying to kind of get to the bottom of, um, what is chaos engineering, and so Christian was kind of trying to take it into my musical world a little bit. He goes, well, imagine you did it like this. Like, you have your stage tech, you guys are going to do your sound check, right? So when no one's looking, I'll go unplug the guitar amp or something like that. And then I'll say to my guitar tech, hey man, what's going on? This guitar amp's not working. You know what I mean? Or just start pulling the plug. So, and then we were talking about the old school Easter egg concept that software developers would use. So can you just kind of break down a little bit more, like the chaos engineering?
Yeah, you bet. I like that analogy of what happens when you're on stage. So I'll take it a little step further. But a big part of it comes down to customer experiences. So how do you ensure that there's continuity in the customer experience? So in your case, Garrett, this would be the audience, right? So let's say you're mid-show and your mic goes out, or which would probably be worst case scenario, but maybe
It
it's your
happens.
it happens. So what do you do, right? Like, and how do you start training for that? And that's a big part of what chaos engineering is helping you get familiar and comfortable with your systems. And when a lot of companies are moving to the cloud, there are a lot of distributed systems, and so the complexity becomes, or the systems become even more complex. And so what we want to do is help you uncover weaknesses and vulnerabilities in those systems so that you can avoid an awkward moment on stage, or, where your entire site goes down, because that's costly, right? It's costly to your business's bottom line. It's costly to your brand reputation, and you have to, then focus on building customer trust. So I like that analogy of on stage. It's not one I've really thought of before, but I think it's pretty relevant.
Can you give another, like, a real life example, that happens in a tech world, like does Zoom use Gremlin technology, or what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Where we see a lot of adoption is with site reliability engineers, those that are responsible for maintaining systems and services. So I'll give you a couple of examples that are coming to mind. One would be where the concept of chaos engineering in that practice was really pioneered was at Netflix and at Amazon. And that's where our founders came from. So if Netflix experiences any downtime, it can cost them millions of dollars in sunk costs, right? Because there are however many hundreds of thousands or millions of people that are, accessing that site.
Massive scale.
Right. A good example of one of our customers is actually H-E-B, which is a Texas-based grocery store. And you wouldn't think of them as being, a digital first, but they have a digital department, and that team was responsible for curbside delivery and pickup services. So they already knew that was important to some of their customers. But when COVID hit, the demand completely skyrocketed. So what they were doing was bringing Gremlin into their teams to really test the systems. So systems being, could customers actually access the shopping cart? Could the folks who were actually selecting the groceries, did they have responsive systems? Did they know what those groceries needed to be? And the goal really was just to provide a safe and secure way for customers to get groceries, really important part of their daily lives. And so that's one example of where we're seeing chaos engineering, be effective in terms of team practices. But more often than not, it's a lot with retail and finance, where the cost of downtime is, very, very high.
Yeah. So I think the timing is pretty great for Gremlin and those folks in the chaos engineering space. For the longest time, over the last 10, 15 years, whatever, we've been talking more and more about agility and being able to deliver value fast. And that's still a very, very important thing for businesses. But more and more now, the conversations that I'm hearing with CIOs and folks in the customers we work with is resilience. And it's ensuring that while you're still introducing a lot of change and bringing value, is ensuring that no matter what happens, you're going to run. So whether we're in some, pandemic where people can't go and move and travel perhaps as freely as they once could, or civil unrest, political unrest, like any number of things are things that cause disruption, and that's effectively what chaos ops is trying to protect against, right? It's just disruption in general. How are you seeing? Are you seeing an increase in movement towards chaos engineering? What's the take on the products these days, and what are you learning about the market itself?
Yeah, great question. So what Gremlin is doing is category defining. We are the only hosted offering for a chaos engineering tool on market, right? There are
exciting.
open source tools, but we are the only company that provides chaos engineering services. So what we look at is interest in the category to help us understand growth. And we're still seeing really positive trends. I think reliability, resiliency, those terms, if you even just do a Google trends analysis, have increased considerably in 2020. I was talking to a colleague and I said, if resilience isn't Merriam-Webster's 2020 word of the year, like I don't know what is.
I thought it was divisiveness.
There you go.
I'm hoping for resiliency. It's
Yeah,
a little
I like
bit more
resilience
optimistic.
better. Yes, thank you.
Well, so it's funny, like we're testing systems and technology resilience, but we're also testing the resilience of individuals. One of I'm sure most observations is that the fuses are getting shorter and shorter. I think everyone's under a lot of stress, and I think we're all showing just how resilient we are, though. And so it's definitely amazing, challenging times, to say the least. Tell us more about the software, your product. How does it enable someone to go through, I guess, the various stages and steps that you take towards chaos engineering? Is there a piece that helps you with actually like assessing and defining steady states? Is there a capability that helps you with actually defining your experiments? How does it help you through the maturity of chaos engineering as well? Like what is the tool helping us with?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm actually, I think we talked a little bit about DevOps, and we talked about the importance of culture and practice as part of that. And so I think a big part of making teams successful with Gremlin, the tool, is making them successful with the practice first. And so there's a bit of education around how do you actually bring in, habits and practices around chaos engineering. So there's a lot of education that we're doing up front there. And some of that comes in the form of written content or webinars or game days or boot camps, things that we will offer to our customers. And then the tooling really, advances that by allowing you to connect to your systems. So we ask you up front in our onboarding flows, what does your tech stack look like? Help us understand your overall environment. And then based on those responses or inputs, we would then recommend scenarios that you can go run and test against in your environment. Those scenarios are often, pretty common scenarios that a lot of customers may face, and that could be latency, it could be things like downtime or DNS, for example. But that's one way that we do it. And then we'd like to, our goal, and to one of the things that you just mentioned, is how do we get more proactive and predictive, and how do we help you uncover your unknowns rather than forcing you to try and figure out some of those unknowns. So that's sort of the future of where we're trying to take the product.
Gotcha. Now, is that in an AI way, or is that in a more of just the practices of and the habit of being proactive and the habit of trying to look down the road a little further?
So that would be just connecting to your tools and understanding like where there may be points of vulnerability. So really just helping you find your existing points of failure.
I'll tell you one that Zoom has.
What's that, G?
Is latency. Because you, for instance, I mean, whatever, just a slight interjection here, but you can't jam on Zoom. There's no platform that's out there right now that musicians can jam in real time. So if Christian and if I clapped and he wants to clap on my beat, well, actually he's going to be just slightly behind, so it's impossible to jam. So that's one new possible client for you.
But I gotta say, G, I'm impressed with your ability to teach harmonica lessons with the latency. So G and I did a little harmonica lesson, and
Christian and I have experienced this in real time.
Yeah, I was a step behind. He's like, no, just play, and I'll try to like find you, because he was playing the guitar riff for me to kind of play on top of. So cheers to you and credit to you, G, for being so talented.
But that's awesome that
even with the Zoom.
you're uncovering that, right? You understand it. It's relevant to you, a musician who you said, admittedly, you don't own a laptop. You're not, tech savvy, or can't remember the exact language you use, but you understand, that pain is acute for you too. And so that's what we're really just trying to advocate for, is get to know your systems so that you can get to know your customers, or vice
Right.
versa, get to know your customs
Yeah.
and then understand how the systems and the complexities of those systems can really impact customer experiences.
Absolutely.
So maybe more of a marketing question, but just share with us some of your philosophies on marketing products. How do you approach, who are you targeting on your audience? Obviously, I mean, just SREs, but just give us a little bit of background on your philosophy of marketing and marketing products.
So for me, it all comes down to your key personas. Who are you marketing to? Get to know them in and out as much as you possibly can, whether that's through user research or consuming the content that they're consuming. What are the publications that they read? What are the forums that they're engaged in? Get to know your key persona, understand them as a human, and then understand the challenges that they may be facing, whether that's related to your product or maybe more existential. That might be somewhat controversial to say, but it's true, right? You really want to know who they are at their core. And then you need to know, okay, what is the product that we're selling and we're taking to market, and how can we layer that over some of the pains that they're feeling to help provide value and some additional service to them that they may not be aware of exists.
Yeah.
So for me, it all comes down to really knowing your customer and knowing how and where you can reach them through what channels and what means. And then messaging has to support all of the pain points that you've identified. But I'm an advocate for value-based, marketing and messaging rather than just feature-based. And we market to and sell to SREs and developers. And there's this notion that they don't want anything marketing related.
Right.
And so what that forces us to do is make sure that we have a very authentic voice, that we're speaking technically and directly to them, and that we're not adding, layers of fluff, for a lack of a better word, on top of it, where they may sniff through the BS and say, like, they don't know what they're talking about. So we have an advantage, I think, at Gremlin, because we've got several in-house SREs who are developer advocates and evangelists who can really help us, refine our position in market and validate a lot of what we're putting out there. And then they are also the spokespeople externally. So these folks are speaking weekly at webinars, conferences, and events.
Very cool. I was fortunate that in the last 12 years of our partnership with Atlassian, I've gotten to go to Atlassian's offices a lot. And I was always impressed with how committed Atlassian was to the personas. So much that the personas are sitting above the urinals in the restrooms. So while you're taking care of your bio break, you're actually reading the personas. That's a persona commitment right there.
It's true. It's an important part of what we do.
Kind of shifting gears, Aileen, to more of your personal downtime. Or I don't know if you're rocking tunes at Gremlin while you're working, but I heard through the grapevine that you're kind of old-fashioned in your music consumption. So how do you consume music these days, or has the digital transformation affected you to connect in different ways?
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up in a household where music was. We listened to a lot of music, right? And it was an important part of our family. And never a musician. I dabbled a little bit with the harmonica, but it was very embarrassing. But so, needless to say, I'm a huge. I have such admiration for musicians. So I would say, when I really got into music, let's say like elementary and middle school, most of what I was listening to came from my older sister, and I would steal her tapes. And then I would listen to the radio, and I would make mixtapes from the radio. Then that evolved into CDs. And we could burn CDs and create mixed CDs for one another. I will say that Philadelphonic record, I listened to the hell out of that CD, so much so that it was
worn it out.
Worn out, man. It was scratched. Scratched up. And then Napster came along and changed the game, right? And then the introduction of Pandora and Spotify. And so the way that I consume music sure has changed. The way that I discover music somewhat has changed, right? Like it's still through friends and connections. It's still through going to meet, well, when I could actually go to shows, I would discover new musicians that way, whether they were the openers or sometimes the headliners, because I'd go for the openers. And then, honestly, old school, like Austin has some killer radio stations, KUTX, Sun Radio. They've got these great apps. So if I'm not there, I can listen to them, on my phone. So I think that's changed it to some degree. Spotify has that cool feature where you can see what your friends are listening to, which feels a little stalker-ish, but it's also a great way to discover, what people are jamming out to either that day or maybe something that you want to check out yourself.
Are you from Austin?
I'm from Houston originally.
Okay. Well, you obviously live in one of the best music towns in the world.
Yep.
It's such a great city.
Yeah, great venues. I will say I do have a little bit of venue allegiance, and so that's often a way that I discover music is I'll just go to a venue and see who's performing.
What's like your favorite venues in Austin?
I love Mohawk, Continental Club. C-Boys is great. I'm not sure if you've ever been there, but that's on South Congress. But they've got usually really good, like, kind of soul blues lineup.
Oh, cool. Wow, I don't know any of those places. Check them out. Okay. Aileen, are you ready for our speed round?
Let's do it.
Okay. Vegetable gremlin or electric gremlin?
Electric.
Cold beverage or baby's got sauce?
Cold beverages.
Jira or Confluence?
Confluence for life.
Have you convinced Gremlin to get the Confluence going yet?
It's a little bit of an uphill battle, I'm not going to lie. We've got Google Docs, and it's like the bane of my existence right now. But Confluence all the way.
Right on. We love and appreciate the allegiance. Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Teleport anywhere or read minds?
Teleport, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good one too.
I don't really want to know what's going on in some people's minds.
I just want to get out of here, man.
Yeah. Let's
Can you imagine how loud that would be? All right, so Mexican foodie over here. Better tacos, California or Texas?
Texas, definitely.
What about that place on South Congress?
Guero's?
Guero's, yeah.
There you go.
Is that a tourist trap or is that the bomb? Both?
I mean, like you gotta love it. It's a long running, awesome place. It's got a great outdoor space, delicious margaritas.
Oh,
yeah, great margaritas. You gotta love it. But I mean, South Congress can be fun too. But that little section gets,
hectic.
Okay, trail running in Banff National Park or trail running on Mount Blanc?
I think Banff. Yeah, I don't know the elevation of either of those, but I'm going to go with Banff.
Okay.
Nice. I got another, I've got two write-ins here. These aren't the venues you mentioned, but I'll go ahead and ask. Emos or Stubbs?
Stubbs. Oh, do I have a good story?
Let's hear it.
Garrett, I actually met you briefly outside of Stubbs. I think it was like 2002, 2003.
Wow.
You did a show there and you were hanging out after and you were super sweet. And I still have the signed ticket from that show. So
sweet.
Stubbs, for sure.
Oh, cool. Hey, G, I've always wondered, the backstage at Stubbs is actually on the side and what looks to be a very old structure. What's it like back there?
There's nothing. There's not. Oh yeah. The backstage is kind of, or you have to go on. It's kind of awkward because to get backstage, you have to crawl. You have to traverse the stage. So you're either gonna be back there and stay there, or you can't. If you're an artist, you can't really get from your bus to the. So, anyways, yeah, it's just. Actually, they have a cool airstream that they tricked out back there.
Okay.
And just a little green room in a production office. It's pretty low key, but yeah, that's such a wonderful venue. And it's there's another really cool venue in Austin that is like I can't remember. We played it last time, but it's like a smaller version of Stubbs. It's another outdoor version. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, there's the Empire Room is a little outdoor kind of place up on was that 4th or 8th or so, I think. It's kind of a
Yeah,
cool
Empire.
spot.
Yeah.
And they have
Shoot, I'm
food
trying.
trucks out there.
Mm.
Anyhow, but it's
So many
really
food
cool to
trucks in
play.
Austin.
I know.
Yeah, right. It's really cool to play stubs and those kind of outdoor venues because you're in a
Yeah.
club, but it feels like a bigger situation. But that's
Yeah,
just such
yeah.
an awesome place. I mean,
Yeah, such great venues. And then, okay, so my other write-in, Joe's Coffee or Mozart's?
Good one. Good one. I love Joe's. I really
Yeah.
do. I'm going to go with Joe's.
Joe's on second?
Yeah, Joe's on second. Congress is very busy, but yeah, Joe's on second. When I was at Atlassian, our offices were at 3rd and Colorado, so I frequented Joe's. I've got actually have 3 or 4 of their frequent shopper cards where they punch you know when you get enough coffee. So Joe's.
all right, I got it right. Bird or lime?
I've never ridden one, so I don't know.
Because
Lime?
Austin's such a huge like scooter town.
Yeah, you find a lot of those in the river now and like
Okay.
in random places. It's unfortunate.
Ooh.
But what's funny is I was up in Rochester a few weeks back and it started snowing. And I can't imagine they get much use or utilization of those things at certain times of year. But I guess you're in Austin, you still get, that's year-round kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So, Aileen, tell us, how can we learn more about Gremlin?
So we've got a lot of really good content out there, whether that's on our blog or through webinars that we're promoting. We actually just ran a Chaos Conf, which is the largest chaos engineering conference ever. We had over 3,500 people register for that event. All of that content is available on our website or through chaosconf.io, and it's a great way to start, just educating yourself on the practice. And if anyone listening is interested in getting their hands on the application, we do have a free plan, and so there's a no risk, low risk way to get into product to just kind of poke around and see if Gremlin's the right application for your teams.
So tell us, you made a really big move, vice president of marketing at Gremlin. Such exciting times. You just moved to Houston. I saw on your Instagram that your house is making a lot of progress. What are the projects you got going on? Tell us about the house project.
Yeah, it's really fun. So we're building from ground zero. So I actually just asked the contractor yesterday for a timeline, and so we're hoping for middle to end of January.
Okay.
Prior
Push
to COVID,
that back like 3 months.
Yeah.
No. I feel like we're making good progress, but you're right. Realistic expectations would be good. Prior to COVID, I was gone a week a month at least. I was always on a plane, whether it was internationally or in San Francisco. So, I think a little bit of a silver lining to COVID was getting to be in Houston and be close to the construction and making some of those decisions. So that's been a really fun project.
What part of town?
In Montrose.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, Joseph, Joe, he lived in Montrose for quite a few years. That's a great spot.
It is. Yeah, it's a really
Good
cool
on
part
ya.
of the town. Thanks. Yeah, really excited.
One of my favorite shows, I've seen you at Numbers, which is just down the street from Montrose. Great venue.
Yeah.
And then another one's the Fabulous Satellite Lounge, I think is what it was.
Oh yeah.
That show was that 99 I saw you, and there were maybe 40 people in that room.
Ooh.
It was awesome. I don't know if you remember that or not, but
Yeah,
as many
I
shows
remember that.
shows you played, geez.
I had a fight with my drummer before the show backstage.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Houseman?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that worked out. You got over that one.
Yeah. Oh, we fight all the time, but yeah.
And Houston's got great live music venues. Unfortunately, I know Fitzgerald's recently got closed down. That was one that we used to frequent in high school and in college.
Yep.
But Houston had I don't know what the music scene is these days, but it was awesome in the 90s. We used to leave our suburbs and drive downtown and see all sorts of great music in Houston.
Yeah, I'm hoping a lot of the venues make it. Really there have been a lot of petitions for Save Our Stages, and so trying to get the word out to make sure that these places are still available when we can resume some sense of normalcy and all comfortably stand around and enjoy music together.
There's a really cool new venue we've been playing the last couple of years in Houston at the White Oak Music Hall. Does that ring a bell?
Yep.
It's like they have a big outdoor amphitheater, a small upstairs room which holds like 150 or 250 people, and then a bigger club room downstairs. But it's kind of a very kind of un-American style venue. I say that because like they offer so many different avenues for, startup acts to, big time acts. So it's kind of a smart venue in a way. I'm sure they'll find a way to survive.
Hope so. But for those listening, is it saveourstages.org, I think?
There's also a thing called NIVA, National Independent Venues Association. And they're another good one to support.
Oh, yeah, it's saveourstages.com. Yeah, they're associated to NIVA.
Okay,
NIVA.
cool.
Yeah. So yeah, go support them, sign petitions. We need to get some federal stimulus money, go in that direction for sure.
Yep.
Well, right on. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, this has been great. Really enjoyed speaking with you and meeting you, Garrett. Thanks for all the questions, and hopefully was able to, shed some more light on the concept of chaos engineering.
Well, Aileen, thanks so much for joining us. This was a ton of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, Aileen, thank you for entertaining my questions and educating me, helping me to bridge the gap.
Thanks for having me, y'all. It was great to spend the last hour just chatting with the two of you and Garrett getting to know you. Appreciate it.
I had one more thing too. I wanted to leave you guys with a quote from my favorite rapper, Rakim, who says, "After 12, I'm worse than a gremlin. Feed me hip hop and I start trembling."
Nice.
That was
I love
amazing. Thank you.
I love it. Way to work that in, man.
Thanks for listening to the Digital Transformationists podcast, brought to you by Precipio Consulting. Be sure to visit our webpage to check out our other episodes, access show notes and links, and listen to some great bonus content. Like what you heard? Subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. And tell a friend. We love making new friends. I'm executive producer Katie Thomas. Victor Vargas is our engineer. Alejandro Caballero is our editor. Thanks for tuning in.